All right, boys.
What's up?
Valentine's Day. It was Friday.
It was.
How was your Valentine's
Indeed.
Day?
I went to Taco Bell with two guys.
It's kind of
So it was like,
romantic.
it was really romantic.
I did homework.
I forgot. We played Taboo with some friends.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, in honor of Valentine's Day passing, I
Yeah.
have two pickup lines that I've heard.
Oh, no.
One recent, one not so recent.
Okay.
All right. This one is from Bradley. I think you've heard this one. You're so hot that when you eat bread, you poop out toast.
Oh, we've heard that plenty of times from good old Bradley.
Yep.
I actually don't know how I've never heard that, but I don't
He
like
says
that.
it all the
He
time.
says it all the time.
I don't know. I don't know, but
All-
I don't like that.
Also, another one. And this is one I got from my friend David. Gotta make sure to credit these people because I'm not smart enough to come up with this on my own. Are you a parking ticket? Because you have fine written all over you.
I have one that I will never use, but I thought of like a couple years ago.
Okay.
Don't say it. Spill.
Are you over easy? Because I think we're equally yoked.
Until you find out she's Catholic.
Never mind.
I'm disappointed you haven't used that, and you
Yeah.
should definitely use that.
That's why you're still single.
Next time.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Yes, that is the sole reason.
It's the only reason. I refuse to use the
basically,
one pickup line I
think
have.
that's the only thing holding you back. Like, yeah, I think the next time you have an interest in a girl, just, what's up, baby? How you feel about eggs?
What them eggs do?
Because we're yoked. Is that how it went?
Close enough. Close enough.
Close enough, close enough. All right.
That doesn't follow the same logic.
It does-
I think it's perfect. Hello, and
Explains a
welcome
lot.
back to the next episode of College Years with your three hosts, Noah the pastor,
Hello.
Steven the programmer,
Hey.
and Jonny the photographer. Changing it up a little bit today, boys. We're standing,
Oh,
for
yeah.
those of you who are watching and care how we are sitting or standing. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see if we'll be able to stand still enough to actually talk into the microphones well. But,
Possibly.
yeah, so Steven's going to take us down another topic today. Do you want to give us another one-sentence synopsis of what it's going to be?
Yep. Today we will be talking about not all things, but most things youth groups.
Ooh, this is going to be a good one. Lots of stories. Lots
yeah.
of tea.
Oh, why
lots
did you
of-
say T?
lot-
Why did you say T? Oh,
Are you not vibing with that, Steven?
I'm not vibing with
Johnny, stop.
We have a lot of fun stuff to talk about in this episode. But before, same stuff we always got to do. Follow us on all of our Instagrams. Like and subscribe and buy our stickers and I don't know what else, all that stuff. But before we jump right into talking about youth groups, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor. Hello and welcome back. All right, Steven, you want to jump us right into talking about youth group?
All right. So, if you don't know what youth group is, basically it's like this. In church, you have children's ministry, usually from kindergarten or from nursery to 5th grade. You know, you're in there, you're learning your songs, you're learning your Bible verses, you're learning about the books of the Bible, you're learning about, the basic Bible stories, Noah. Noah and the Ark, that is.
Yes, my ark is very large. I keep it in the backyard.
I got the horses in the back.
I got my ark in the back.
No, they have to stay there at the doors in case we have to escape quickly.
Oh my
My
gosh.
But yeah, you learn your basic Bible stories and things like that, and then you get to youth group, where you start to dig deeper. Hopefully in the Word, if you're going to the right church, you're learning more about your Lord and Savior. Hopefully, you're accepting Christ as your Lord and Savior. That's the hope for basically everybody that listens to this podcast, that they would accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Just a little shameless plug for Jesus. You know?
There's no shame in that kind of plug.
Exactly. Romans 1:16. I'm not ashamed of the
Hey,
gospel
there
of
you
Christ. But yeah, so it's basically I feel like a lot of churches do it differently. So my first question
absolutely.
to you guys would be, how does your church do youth group?
Okay. So I've been kind of mainly a part of 2 different churches throughout my life. The second one and the church I'm currently a part of is also Noah's church. So I'll let Noah talk about that one, and I can talk about my first one. But yeah, Noah, if you want to hit us with our church and what we do.
Yeah, so our youth group is Sunday nights, 6 to 8 o'clock, most nights, unless there's something special going on, of course. Just pretty, I don't know, standard youth group here, because I've only gone to one youth group in my life.
Gotcha.
I don't even think I've visited other youth groups, so I really don't know what's normal or what's even widely used.
Yeah.
So you guys usually start out like with worship or something like that, or games?
So it's start out with a game, a snack, and then it'll go to worship and then preaching from the youth pastor.
You guys ever do like small groups or something like that?
Yeah, we did small groups about the last 15 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah,
30 to 15 minutes.
In our senior year, we did small groups, and then we broke, which was basically like the male high schoolers would be in a small group, female high schoolers in middle school. And so you'd have kind of the 4 small groups, and then our senior year, we split it up even more, and we had we called them D groups. And that was like a couple of people from like the high school guys for us, and we broke it up like even further down. But
Yeah.
Sweet. So like, how large would you say your youth group was?
Average attendance was probably 30 to 50 people.
Okay.
yeah.
Is it like middle school? Like what would you say like the middle school high school ratio was?
Honestly, it varied.
Yeah.
So there was one year where I was one of 4 high school guys that attended regularly. Another year, my senior year, there was a ton of high school guys. So it just changed by the year. You know what ages of families are in our church at the time.
Yeah.
It always varies pretty wildly.
Yeah, because like I know my youth group was a little different.
Okay.
So like our youth services in a sense were like Sunday mornings during the adult services. Like we would worship with the adults, and then like most of the time we would go back into a classroom, and that's where we would have prayer. Like if anybody had prayer requests or anything like that, and then our youth pastor would share
during
worship.
like while the regular sermon's going
Yeah.
on. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so, like, that was the same thing for middle school and high school. The middle school and high school classes were, like, split. And it was nice. I would say, like, the size of my youth group was probably a little bit smaller. Probably max 30 kids. Like, when I started, the majority of us, like, it was kind of like, you know, all my friends. It was a big group of my friends.
Yeah.
And we all, like, we're all in the same class year, so we came through middle school together, and it was mainly middle schoolers that dominated. Then like in high school, it was like a bunch of high schoolers and a couple of middle schoolers.
Okay.
And then my senior year, it was a bunch of middle schoolers, and like the majority of the like high school senior guys had left.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So like, I mean, it was different. I feel like it was different from a lot of youth groups, and we did the same things like on Wednesdays, like on Wednesday night Bible studies.
Okay.
Same thing, like worship with the adults and then head back.
Okay.
But also, I was a part of another youth group, kind of.
Okay.
Like so, Mark, my roommate. His youth group, I was kind of a part. Like I would visit there, and they kind of did like similar to you and Noah's church, where it was the type of thing of like, you know, games, snacks, worship. Small group.
And was that
study
Sunday
and things like
nights?
that. It was.
as well?
I think it was like Wednesday nights or something.
Wednesday
like
nights?
that.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah. I'd say for the old church that I went to, it was throughout the time that I was at that church, it extremely varied. I think I remember being like really young, like not youth group age yet, and I remember they had like a youth group band, and it was like a really big. By the time I got to youth group in middle school, there wasn't enough kids to do like the band. It kind of like slowly decreased. And by the time I left between like 8th grade and like my sophomore year of high school, I was like one of 3 families that were sending kids. So it like was tiny, and it turned into basically like a small group.
Nice.
That was just like meeting with like a couple leaders and like 4 kids.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was like it got really, really small, and like I liked having there were pros and cons to like having a really small youth group like that.
Yeah.
Because like when you have a really big group of kids, you have to be extremely careful of what you say. Like this was one of the things Noah and I went through. We were part of like a leadership team our senior year. And like one of the things we did was create like music playlists. And there was like a lot of music that we couldn't even play, not because it was bad or anything, but because there was like one line that if it was taken out of context, someone could take it completely the wrong way.
Yeah.
So we had to make sure every individual line was okay. Whereas like, if there's like 4 people, we know the music, whatever.
Yeah.
So there were definitely pros and cons to being a part of like super small.
The playlist that I built, I remember, was mostly hip-hop, a little bit of Christian rock, and I think most of it got rejected by our youth pastor because he found just like little lines that, I found that's perfectly acceptable because it's wordplay. I mean, there were quite a few songs, like in Drowning, KB says, I was in the something, dug down, smoking up them spliffs. Spliffs being slang for weed, of course.
Oh, okay.
And like other small lines like that, like Crowns and Thorns
about
by KB talking about
that says,
OJ and the White Bronco,
yeah,
which would not
like
go over as well with some
Jesus,
people.
What was it saying? That Jesus was...
It's talking about Jesus. He was talking about Jesus' love and how it's like OJ trying to run away from the cops in the White Bronco, which is sort of a funny line, but...
Which is humorous.
It's wordplay.
which is humorous, and like you can see it in the overall scope of the song, like what, like his meaning for it. You don't necessarily have to agree with it.
You hear that line out of context.
Yeah, when you're just like hanging out with your friends eating a snack and you just hear Jesus is like OJ, it's a little.
That actually like went over my head because I hadn't seen like that picture before then. So
Right,
I knew
right.
I'd sort of heard of O.J. Simpson and the whole thing that went down with that, but I didn't know about the whole car chase with him in the White Bronco.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's something that wasn't on my radar whenever I listened to that song. And I've listened to that song quite a few times.
We had a lot of like just regular contemporary Christian like worship songs like that our youth pastor denied too for just like random different reasons like that. But yeah, so like
boycott Lauren Daigle.
Yep. How do you feel about Reckless Love?
Reckless Love?
Yeah.
Don't mind it.
Okay.
Don't mind it.
I don't mind the song by itself because I can understand the wordplay, even though the dictionary definition of reckless means without thought or careless action, and an omniscient God cannot be careless.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like God cannot be reckless, and in like the regular definition of that word, that song makes no sense. That song's terrible. But like because Corey Asbury like explained his definition of it, like when he was writing the song, it was just like I like the song. I think overall it's a good song, and because I know his meaning for the word reckless, it makes sense. But I feel like also like with writing Christian music, it can be dangerous to like create your own definitions for words that like otherwise would make no sense.
How did you define it?
I don't remember.
It was in reference to the parable about Jesus, the shepherd leaving the 99 to save the one. So he's talking about how, in that sense, yes, his love is reckless because he's leaving the rest of the flock to save the one lost sheep. So I understand it in the context of that parable. However,
yeah, he also talked about how like his love bankrupt heaven for us, and that like God's love doesn't consider himself first at all, and in like
that's true, but that's just true love is sacrificial in that sense.
Right. But like,
It changes how we think of it.
yeah, but that's how he defined like reckless in that sense of like if we're doing something for somebody else without like a single thought of how it would affect us at all, like if that could be considered reckless.
It could,
I guess, but
like
that's also just a
in
true
our sense,
definition of love.
We're mortal, finite creatures. God is not finite in any way.
Right.
It's
and that could be that's why he used that word specifically to try to make it appeal to us or like help us understand God's love better. But
I understand it. I'm just not huge with like the whole redefining a word that's very common in our vernacular.
No. I completely agree because I think that can be extremely dangerous.
Yeah, especially
with that
because like a lot. I by no means want to compare Corey Asbury to somebody in a cult, but a lot of these like Christian kind of cults. Hey, I've listened to a lot of podcasts on cults. Christian
Cultish.
kinds of cults.
Shout out.
Oh, very good. A lot of cults, like the Mormons, they'll use a lot of Christian vernacular, but it means different things.
Right.
Like when they say, "Oh yeah, God, Jesus is God Himself." Like, no, they see it as Jesus is a God among other gods,
Right.
That's some foolishness.
which is completely foolish.
Yeah.
But it's sort of along that line. Obviously, it's not as severe, and I by no means want to compare him to a cultist. But that's what cults a lot of times do. They use common Christian vernacular or theological words
Exactly. Yep.
and change them. So when you're talking to a Mormon or a Jehovah's Witness, you could be agreeing on everything, but could be talking about completely different things.
Oh yeah, because you two just have completely different definitions. But youth group.
Exactly. Yeah.
To go off on that tangent, but hey, that's what this is for, is to have a conversation. So.
Yeah. Did you learn all of this from youth group?
No. So a lot of the cult. Well, I'm a huge theology nerd. It's part of the reason why I'm doing biblical studies.
Bible nerd. I'm just
Big
kidding.
time.
It's almost as bad as a computer nerd.
Oh, like a computer science major?
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
I
Not
mean, I'm
computer
sort of
science,
both.
IT management.
What are you? Or is that what you were IT man?
No. I'm computer science. It just
So you-
means I'm gonna make money. IT management is like.
IT management, you don't make money.
That's
I'm
just
just
nerd.
kidding. IT management doesn't make money. What am I talking about?
No, so I learned a lot of
All right, let's bring it together.
I learned a lot of this from the show Cultish, which is a show by Apologia Studios. It's very good, and it interviews and explores a lot of cults. So one of the ones that really like stuck with me was the one in Jonestown, especially like hearing the audio from the actual like mass suicide.
Yeah.
It was like almost terrifying because I was sitting there doing my work during the summer and listening to this. It was like, oh my goodness, this is
Yeah.
scary. Like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
actually happened, and you can hear the screams of children dying. It was like,
Yeah.
ah.
But so you'd say you got a lot of kind of your knowledge from this from the podcasts?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because in the summer, I have 8 to 10 hours a day. I have to fill that with something. So I filled it with podcasts.
Yeah.
Nice. So my question would be, what is the biggest thing, like in a like clear-cut way? What is the biggest thing you learned from youth group? While you guys are thinking about that, I'll go first.
Yeah, share your
Please.
answer.
I would
'Cause
say
that's- oh.
it's the importance of discipleship among believers, and also having a community of believers that keep each other accountable. Because like it's so hard to see like people that you grew up with, like let's say someone fell off the rails or something like
Yeah.
that, and it's one of those things, and like you might talk to them and they'll be like, well, I just didn't fit in or something like that.
Yep.
And like it's the importance of having fellowship among believers in youth group.
Yeah. So yeah, mine would probably be really similar if I had to pick one from not thinking about this super much. But I think like just the importance of fellowship, not only with other believers, but with other people your age
Yeah.
as well, is probably the biggest one.
For me, one of them was that theology matters. Especially having our youth pastor, Jake. He's very theologically adept, and he cares a lot about
Absolutely.
theology, and that showed in his preaching and the way he ran youth group. So just going through that and listening to him speak, it really was one of the things that led me to, having that mindset that theology absolutely always matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, I feel like another one for me would definitely be like the importance of knowing our own theology and making our faith our own.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
not just listening to what preachers are saying every Sunday, or like for Cedarville students in chapel as well. Like it's important to know what you believe.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because like I see, and like I haven't witnessed this personally.
Yeah.
But like I've heard stories of like people being in certain youth groups and the pastor's just saying like some whack stuff.
Yeah.
Or like he might be like sharing a video and like the person on the video is saying like some whack stuff, and people are just like, well, it's in youth group, therefore it must be verified. And there always should be like that level of trust, like because they're like a youth pastor, but always like check your sources.
Yeah, check your sources. If something like doesn't sound right, then go test it against the Bible.
That's one. Yeah.
Check your youth pastor all the time.
Check them.
Yo, shout out to solid youth pastors. Shout out Mr. Joey.
Give him a hip check.
Shout out Jake.
Big
Coleman.
facts.
All right. So, that kind of leads into my next topic. How was discipleship done or at your youth group, and how did you utilize it, or did you utilize it?
So I think like I mean I'll just stick with the church I'm at now because I don't remember much about my old one anymore and how that worked. Especially because that was like middle school and it just wasn't as much of a focus for me.
Yeah.
But like the last few years being at the same church as Noah, I think discipleship has been huge with just like our youth pastor did very, very well of we could text him almost whenever and be like, hey, I need to talk about something, and like he's willing to do it. And that's definitely huge of having a youth pastor that's open like that.
And he, along with that, whenever we'd have conversations with him, like sit down and have serious conversations, he has a way of pushing you to think deeper and think critically about things.
Yeah.
Like just the one question, why?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Dude,
why
like,
is that so?
He will not give you an answer.
He takes you so far back and brings the tangent so far off and then reels it in all of a sudden. He really got us to like shows that concepts build on one another. You know, there's hierarchy of concepts and one builds off of the other. And if there's a flaw at one level of concept, all the others are going to be off.
Yeah, like I think one of the best examples of that was probably like the most knowledge I've ever gotten about from sitting in a hot tub for a couple hours. But it was
Which time?
Exactly. Our youth pastor, long story short, our youth pastor has a hot tub, and over the summers he does like a Bible study at his house, like kind of instead of youth group. And almost every Sunday we would stay after. Once everybody left, we'd get in the hot tub and we'd talk, and sometimes he'd get in, sometimes he'd just pull up a chair next to us and be like, y'all enjoy it, and we'll just talk. And there were so many times where we'd just start talking about random things, start talking about testimonies and sharing them, and by the end of it he completely changed my views of how to share a testimony and why we share testimonies and why testimonies are so important. And he changed our views about I just had it, but I don't remember. I don't know if Noah has another example.
We talked about, there was one point we talked about like relationships on a mission trip. That was
Oh my god.
that was a crazy conversation. I joined halfway through and
I forgot
blew
about
my
that.
mind.
And that was like
There was just one night I was walking around because I was bored and like there was nobody in sight in that team house. So I just like walked on, saw all my friends sitting there and was like, why not? I'm not tired right now.
yeah, and that was like I was super surprised about that whole thing because that was like the first thing I'd done with that youth pastor, with these people, with the church at all. Was that first mission trip to Guatemala, and yeah, it was literally like the second night we were there, we stayed up for hours just talking about relationships and what that looks like, and it was really good. But
And we broke a chair.
and was it Hadley that fell in this?
It
Somebody broke some plastic chair, but that's not as important.
That's not important to our topic.
But yeah, so I think our youth group does discipleship very, very well. And
like we also like would get set up with our youth leaders that would be our mentors, and that's what our D groups also came out of, was that concept. So just having that person to go to and just to like do things with you like every once in a while.
yeah. But what about you, Steven?
I would say discipleship at my youth group was like, it was a big thing. It was kind of one of those things like they didn't advertise like, hey, we do discipleship.
Okay.
Or like, hey, you should reach out to us. Like, they made themselves available.
Yeah.
And I would say it's my 100% like the biggest regret that I have about like my youth group is that I didn't take advantage of it. Not until like
That's
more
fair.
of my senior year where I started like asking people questions.
Yeah.
Which I think that was also like because I wasn't taking my walk as seriously until my junior and senior years of high school.
Right.
But yeah, I would say it was there. It was prevalent. Anybody that's going to my church right now, take advantage of it.
Yeah.
because that's what our youth pastors are there for. Because they're
Absolutely.
also our pastors as well. So
Yeah.
like
They are real pastors.
They are
They are
pastors.
real pastors.
They do a lot.
Yeah.
As much
No,
as
they,
we-
they only work on Sundays, right?
Oh my god.
Never mind the 18 to 20 hours it takes to write a sermon.
Yeah, that's a running joke with our youth pastor because Sundays are
Just some people
super
think
busy
that.
for him, and he's like, "Yeah, just normally don't worry about texting me because I probably won't see my phone at all on Sundays." So we're like, "Oh yeah, because it's the only day you work, right?"
Nice.
And there's this conception for youth pastors, but also for any other kind of pastor, for people who aren't very invested in the church. They just see the pastor preaching the sermon like, oh, that's the only day he works, when
Yeah.
in reality, pastors,
definitely
like,
not.
a lot of them are counselors. They do
Mhm.
a lot of sermon writing. They read probably a ton.
Yeah.
They work a lot of hours a week
Yeah,
for very little pay.
Our senior pastor spends a lot of time throughout the week just visiting members of the church at work. He'd visit my mom and one of our friends' mom who work together a lot and bring them goodies and pray over them. And yeah, it's another little side tangent, but yeah, that's huge
For sure.
for sure.
Yeah. So kind of like on the discipleship aspect, but kind
Yeah.
of in a broader scope. What would you say is the biggest advantage of the concepts of youth group?
For me, since it was separate from the church service, it was a lot later. It was like I got 2 church services in one day. Like, I heard 2 sermons from usually 2 very good speakers and very good expositors. So just having that and having some of the sermon series Jake took us to, like, through conflict. He took us through basic systematic theology. He took us through
Yeah.
the aspects of God. Like, those are the 3 that stand out most in my mind, but those
yeah.
really helped me lay my foundation for, because those are very foundational, like soteriology, hamartiology, these very fundamental theological concepts that eventually build to more nuanced theological concepts.
Yeah, I think youth group is such an important like kind of form of church because it is very similar to church of like you're coming for a message, you're coming to fellowship with other believers, but like it lets kids be kids. There's games. Kids get to get their energy out, they get to hang out, they get to see all their friends that they maybe only see once a week. But then they're challenged with a message and like with us with the small groups, and they're given opportunities to speak out, to pray together, to love one another. And I think that's the biggest advantage that like a lot of youth group aged kids like wouldn't get from just a normal church service.
Yeah.
And also like most kids aren't going to like go to their own like small group. If they go to a small group, they'll probably go to whatever small group their family goes to.
Yeah.
So I think it's also a big advantage of it forces the kid to again take the faith into not into their own hands. That sounds bad.
Heretical.
They get to figure out their faith for themselves.
Yeah. I would that's actually what I was going to say. It forces the individual to say, okay, mom's done dropping me off at kids ministry.
Yep.
I now have
Or
to
being there with me.
Exactly. Until 5th grade? Oh,
Oh,
boy.
man.
My mom ran children's ministry.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. I was about to say, like, she's still holding your hand while you're trying to memorize Psalm 119.
Maybe, Steven. Maybe. Just kidding.
I was about to say some weirdness right there. But nah, I would say like it's kind of like you said, not taking your faith into your own hands, but making your faith your own.
Yeah.
You know, just more of it's my responsibility if I want to walk with God and I want to have a strong relationship with Him. And like those years were so important.
Absolutely.
But like kind of on the flip side, what would you say is like the biggest disadvantage of youth group?
I feel like sometimes, like I feel like for the most part, you're kind of expected to go to the youth group of the church you go to Sunday mornings.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know if that'd be a disadvantage, but like everybody's different and everybody gets different things out of different youth groups. And like some people might think a really small, intimate youth group is really good for them and they might be able to get a lot out of it. But then other people might like the ones where there's like hundreds of other kids their age. And they might like really big ones. So I feel like there can be sometimes a disadvantage or a stigma with that. Like, oh, they're going to some other church's youth group instead of ours. Like, that's not right. Which I wouldn't necessarily agree with that in that sense.
Well, if you look at it from the aspect of youth group helps to build the church community, then that makes a lot of sense. If you're thinking about it from just that perspective, a lot of times youth groups, when done well, they sort of train the middle schoolers and high schoolers how to be good church members, how to serve, and how to build community, if executed well. Of course, there's plenty of examples of bad youth groups, and there's all the horror stories of just like bad stuff going on.
Foolishness.
Foolishness. Yep. Great word. I mean, totally lost my train of thought again.
No.
I'm having a great day. It's going super well. Steven, you want to talk on that for a second while I try to remember what I was going to say?
So kind of like, I like what your point was saying about how like if someone's going to a different youth group, it kind of messes up the dichotomy of like building a church, like in a sense building a church community. But at the same time, in my personal experience, let me get closer to the mic.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my personal experience is like, it actually helped build a church community that was outside of those church walls and those people that gather there.
Yes.
So like, there were a couple of times in the summer where we hosted youth events, like for my church specifically, and then people from Mark's church would come, and it was really fun. It created a really diverse environment. Yeah, it was a little awkward at first, but
the body of Christ is the church.
Exactly.
A building is not the church.
Yeah.
And for like if you're looking at like a church building as like an organizational standpoint, or like as looking at it like a business perspective.
Looking at it as an entity and not a body.
I do see there is advantages to having the same people that are showing up on Sunday mornings also show up for your youth group.
Exactly.
But also if the body of Christ is a church, then is it that important if you go to the same youth group that you go to the same church on the Sunday mornings? Like,
as long as they believe the same basics
exactly.
as you do.
Right.
And well, not as you do, but as long as they believe the truth.
Yeah.
'Cause sometimes we don't.
As long as they believe the Bible, then
exactly.
that's the body of Christ.
Yep. So, going on, kind of getting to the fun aspect, what are some of the best moments or experiences that you have had with the youth group?
Oh, man.
keeping it a little short.
Ooh. Do you want to start us off, Steven?
I will start us off.
Okay.
My youth group had a tendency to be very intense.
Okay.
Like, we were very intense.
Like competitive?
Yes.
Okay.
You okay?
Got some gas there.
Excuse you.
But, yeah, so when we went on youth retreats, there were two things that we always did. The boys would always fight, and the boys and girls would always do pillow fights. Those moments were legendary.
Okay.
Like, I remember one time. So, interesting tidbit. At our youth retreats, there was like an upstairs floor and a downstairs floor. In the downstairs floor were the guys' rooms and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the girls' rooms were upstairs.
Yep.
Obviously, girls and guys not allowed in the same room.
Yep.
So one day, we are like having a pillow fight.
Okay.
And like all the lights turn out. So we all get in the bed. Like we're all like in the bed. The girls start a pillow fight. We're like, okay, good. We're all in the door. We all pack into this one room. It was really small, and we turn the lights out.
Yeah.
We're expecting one guy to come, like only one guy.
Okay.
And we're just gonna gang up on him.
Oh,
this
gosh.
one girl runs into our room. Game over for her.
No.
Oh,
no.
you just see charge.
Poor girl got rocked.
It was over for her. Also, based on that experience, if we ever have a pillow fight here, I don't know if we're allowed to have one. I feel like we should be allowed to have pillow fights, except for the sprinklers. It's the sprinklers.
Yeah, the problem is I would be most worried about the sprinklers and someone trying to something bad would happen.
Exactly.
Somebody
but,
just
but I'm
charging
open-
it up and then think.
But I'm open to it.
Yeah, exactly.
The largest pillow fight I've been a part of was at Lake Ann Camp.
Uh-huh.
There
course
was,
it was.
During junior high, which is what is that, fourth and fifth
Fourth
grade.
and fifth.
Basically, or no, that's a jump start. Sixth and
No,
seventh and
Jumpstart
eighth.
is going into 6.
Seventh and eighth is junior high.
Yeah.
So junior high, a lot of the guys stay in like basically it's 4 big cabins connected, and then you have this big middle area.
Gotcha.
Oh, yes.
And there's quiet hours every day, which is, or not quiet hours. There's the
Sleepy time.
what is
No,
it?
lights
Cabin
out?
rest time.
Oh, CRT.
Cabin rest time, which is you just get an hour, and you also don't appreciate that till you're in senior high when you're like,
Oh,
I'm gonna
yeah.
actually nap. Until then,
Yeah.
you're just restless. But
Or until
so-
you're in a program where you don't get CRT.
yeah. So we were just like chilling, and we were like 5-10 minutes in, and one of this like 2 counselors come in with pillows, and they're like, "Who wants to do a pillow fight with everybody?" And we're like, "Let's go!"
Okay.
So we all grabbed our pillows. We went out. They were like, it was packed. There was just people everywhere.
Yo.
A kid broke all 5 of his fingers on one hand.
Oh.
And another kid got
Dang.
knocked out.
That's
like
crazy.
he got hit just right in the right spot, and he was like out, and he was out for a little bit.
Wow.
Like he hit the ground. We were just
Oh,
kind of like, oh,
goodness.
is this kid good? Another kid broke his wrist. Like it was like the most intense, just crazy. And the counselors were not like chill about it. Like they were just like going
They were
hard.
going in.
Yeah, they did not care. There was like, it was week 8. It was their last week. They were just like going as hard as possible.
yeah.
So they're just like swinging pillows, just knocking kids around like left and right. It was amazing.
What
But-
would you do if you saw a child in front of you?
Oh wow.
But no, do you have any youth group stories?
I mean, the one you presented wasn't really a youth group, but
I feel like that
that's-
counts as youth group.
Yeah.
I remember
Close
one
enough.
day.
I went with my youth group, if it's fair.
Okay. I remember one time we were doing service projects, and I don't know, we were just having a great time. It was the 4 of us, Johnny, you and I, and Connor and Gavin, and Hadley. Yeah, Hadley was there. We were just having a good time, like doing stuff together, like digging holes.
Oh my gosh!
And
I
then
forgot
all-
about this.
And then all 4 of us decided that we needed to all use the pull saw. So we all ran up.
So do you know what a pull saw is? Like it chops off limbs of trees.
Oh yeah.
So this is like a one-man thing.
Five of us
5
were doing
freshman
this.
guys.
We were
guys.
juniors.
5 junior guys. That's worse. 5 junior guys decided to all share this. Oh.
It was great. We just walked up. And they're like, cut that down. We were like, okay. And we just all went and just started like yelling the most random things and cutting down this tree.
We
Wow.
had
Not
chant-
cutting down these tree branches.
We were chanting. We were cheering every time the littlest twig would come off. Like.
It was
Crackhead hours
great.
have commenced.
It was ridiculous. That was probably the most like
That was actually-
enthusiastic they have ever seen kids for like cleaning up and doing yard work.
That was
Wow.
actually the day our friend group actually became
Yep.
like a friend group, because that night we made the
created
group
a
chat.
group chat that night, and
Nice.
we've like
That's how our friend group actually
we've
like,
been a
became
mess
official.
ever since.
Crackheads.
But yeah. Also, another little story actually from youth group. Old church I went to was kind of an old building. We had a couple 4-legged friends and a couple winged friends in the basement.
Nice.
So we spent a couple of times with tennis rackets bat hunting
Nice.
in the basement of this church. And yeah, it was an experience.
Awesome.
There was a lot of screaming. Most of the time, bats were not caught. And we maybe got like 1 or 2 bats
Wow.
all the time I was there.
Have you guys ever
But-
seen like the mosquito rackets? Like
Yeah.
the electric.
Yeah.
I want one.
No, I don't think that's a good idea.
I feel like in a
won't bring
men's
it here.
college dorm, that is not a good idea.
I won't bring it here. That just sounds like initiation protocols
Yeah.
to me. Yikes.
That's like Daniel's
Cattle
prod. One of the youth group leaders has a cattle prod and has brought it
He
to
has
youth
everything.
group. Has
Why am
brought
I-
it to youth group numerous times.
Why am I not surprised?
Yeah.
If you met him, you would be even less surprised.
All right.
Yeah. That was a good discussion.
I like that. I think we were able to talk about a lot. I think it's cool how different youth groups can be, especially with sizes, like size and the what makes up the youth group body is always probably the biggest thing, biggest difference between youth groups. But it's always interesting to see, like which days people do it on, which times, and like what you guys start out with. Do you save the game for last or whatever?
Yeah.
I think those are always fun for sure. But yeah, let's. We have a few more minutes here, so let's try to answer a couple of questions. We actually have a decent list that we probably won't get to all of them. Or we can do rapid fire. What do you guys think? Rapid fire?
Oh, yeah,
all
rapid
right.
fire. Everybody
From
knows
I
yours.
am still not a vegan. What's the fanciest food you know how to make? Noah, go.
Mac and cheese. Good mac and cheese, not just box.
Steven.
An omelet.
Okay. Like good homemade mac and cheese. What is one thing that you will never do again? Noah. Actually, I'm going to say that, and then we're going to come back to that at the end because I need time to think
Yeah, I
about
need
that.
time to think about
What
that
is the hottest thing you have ever tasted? Noah.
Honestly, I can't remember. I haven't enjoyed too many hot foods.
Okay. Steven?
Not sure if it was here. Some guy in your hall gave me like a hot sauce that was.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Oh yeah, that was
4
here.
million
I
on-
still have that video.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like 4 million on.
It was a
Scoville.
disappointing. It was a disappointing reaction though.
It was.
Okay, so picture this. Bunch of 8th grade boys in Chicago go into a mall. They go into a hot sauce store. They walk up. They all have their wallets in their hand. First thing they say, "Where is your hottest hot sauce?"
Oh.
The guy behind the counter looks at the group of kids, smirks a little bit,
So evil.
takes keys off of his belt,
Oh.
turns around, unlocks the cabinet, opens up the big glass door, grabs what looks to be a little plastic flashbang, sets it on the
Oh, it's
counter.
flashbangs?
It's flashbang.
Flashbangs are terrible.
We
Those are
sat
bad.
there like all throwing our $1 bills and $5 trying to like pay enough money for it. It was like $40 or $50 or something.
Oh, gosh.
We dipped a straw in the flashbang, took it out,
Ooh,
and
that's
like
too much.
and so we just like took it and dipped it in, and then we just like touched our tongue to the straw. So we like barely did a little bit. A couple of us did like a little bit of a lick, but like it was so bad and it lasted for so long.
Yeah.
And we were like, we waited till we got back to school because all the leaders on the trip were like, nope, you're not doing this. We don't want to deal with this. So as soon as we got back, we're like, all right, boys, let's break this out. And yeah, we were trying to find milk. We got like Starburst or something from one of the teachers, and
Milk-
that didn't help at all.
Milk does not help. When it's
Milk
that
does.
bad.
When it's that bad, nothing helps. It's
Exactly.
just pure agony.
You just-
This had like the list. It literally, the warning was like there was a list of so many peppers. One of the biggest warnings was like, oh, you might lose consciousness from this. So like that's
Nice.
cool. Be careful. That wasn't really rapid fire, but okay. What is your child going to be when they grow up? Noah.
Maybe a pastor's kid. I don't know.
Hey, Steven?
I'll tell you what they're not gonna be. Not gonna be a cheerleader.
Yep.
All right. Oh, if it's a guy, it's a guy.
No, okay.
Not gonna be a cheerleader, and hopefully something where he can provide for his family.
All right, I like it. Yeah, I hope mine will be a godly man or woman who is striving after God, and they
Wow,
will-
way to give the holy answer.
and I'm sorry, and they'll also probably be a missionary kid. So like, there's that. Last one from Antelope.Ange.
Shout out Angela.
What is your favorite kind of shoe brand or shoe? Noah.
So I'm not a big shoe person. I basically wear what's good for my feet because my feet are absolutely terrible.
Okay. Steven?
Shoe brand probably Nike. In between Nike
Okay.
and Vans.
Nike and Vans?
Yeah, Nike and Vans. So it's like my favorite shoe brand or shoe. I'll probably just go with brand.
Okay.
It's like Nike or Vans.
Yeah, for me, probably Converse are probably my favorite. Probably have the most of those. But also for like tennis shoes and cleats and stuff, I like Nike.
Okay.
But alrighty, I think.
Going back to
Huh?
The question about
Yeah, what's the one thing that you will never do again?
Oh yeah, we didn't go back to that.
Yeah.
What's one thing you'll never do again?
Oof, that's a hard one.
I'm gonna start it off. Have that flashbang hot sauce.
I've had
But that's
flashbang-
the easy answer.
Yeah, I've had flashbang before. I do it again. I like the experience and the reaction. even if it's just like, I don't know why. I might just be dumb.
I feel like I have a list of them. I'd never do flashbang again. I'd never take college algebra again.
Really?
College algebra was terrible. It was just busy work.
Yeah, true.
That was bad.
I'll never do DLD again.
Ever do DLD? Noah?
For me, I'm gonna have a hard time taking an online class again because my senior year of high school, I did online calculus because I thought it was gonna be an AP credit. Turns out it wasn't, and I ended up getting like a C in the class, my only C in my high school years,
Nice.
just because like I really didn't have a teacher, and I had a hard time self-teaching it, so
That's fair.
I stumbled through the exam on that. Luckily, the way the point system worked, it wasn't like compartmentalized. It was just total points. So the final exam didn't count for much, which is good because I got like a 54 on it or something like that.
Oh, I have another thing that I'll never do again.
Yeah.
I will never make a racist comment on this podcast ever again.
So actually, I was talking to a friend yesterday morning about the podcast.
Uh-huh.
She was like, "What did Steven have to apologize for?" And
Oh,
I like explained it and stuff. She was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Oh, I had no idea. Like I didn't catch it." So
Really?
So hopefully it wasn't as big of a deal as
Yo, I was
we
low-key
thought.
sweating. I was
But-
sweating. I was in my bed that night. I was like, why did I say this?
Why did I say
Why
that?
did
What did I
I
say?
say
that?
What I say?
All right, but this was good. This was fun. Thank you all for listening or watching, whatever you do. Be sure to follow us on all our social medias. Instagram at College Years. Noah?
Goodbye.
Nope. What's your
Oh,
Instagram?
At Wretched Angelos.
Steven.
At Stufferless8.
And mine is at Anchored Sonder. Be sure to buy our stickers on Redbubble. We're also playing around with the different ideas of doing mugs or whatnot. We're just having fun with it. So we'll see. Maybe we'll come out with some other stuff. Also, I don't think any of you have shared us on your stories yet. So far, nobody's getting a sticker.
Exactly.
But start
Shame.
sharing us on your stories. Tell
Actually,
your friends.
Nope. Angela did.
Angela did?
Angela is getting a sticker.
So Angela's getting a sticker. All right. Congrats to Angela. Anybody else? Share us on your story. We'll pick somebody every week, maybe, or every other. I don't know.
I wouldn't commit to that.
We'll figure it out.
Depends on
I don't
sticker
care.
price.
That's true. It depends on sticker price and like if there's more than one person that shares it. But
Yeah.
hey, remember to like and subscribe and comment and share again. Yeah, keep sharing. But
Sharing is caring.
sharing is caring.
Most of the time.
Tell your friends. This was Noah the pastor,
At goodbye.
Stephen the programmer,
Hey.
and Jonathan the photographer. Shout out to Kyle and Micah, the producers, in the background doing all that fun stuff
Oh,
for
yes.
us. And to wrap it up, you've been listening to College Years.